A disturbing new case has emerged where the father of a former student at Sarah Lawrence College in New York was found to be running a sex cult right on campus out of his own daughter's dormitory. What's more, he managed to extort her friends and her classmates into pony up heaps of money while subjecting many of them to prostitution. Here to talk us through this case is Molly Barrows, journalist for Trial Lawyer Magazine. Molly, this is beyond crazy.
It is.
You know, it gets me. All of this is taking place on the college campus. The college campus is trying to cover it up, act like it's not a big deal, the same reason that they cover up rape cases that take place on campus.
Yes, that's what stuck out to me about this story as well. You know, sad as it is, it's not unusual to have a master manipulator, which is what prosecutors say this Ray Lawrence is, the father of this former student that went to Sarah Lawrence College. But what is crazy to me is that he moved in with his daughter in her dorm with 8 other students. There were 7 females, 1 male student. He was there for 2 months. That's where he formed this relationship under the guise of a father figure.
And we're talking about on campus.
On campus, in the middle of campus. Now, he lived in campus and made these connections, made the foray into these relationships to manipulate them for a couple of months, and then he eventually moved off campus. Many of the students followed him. He was living in an apartment with a man he'd met in prison because, mind you, this began in 2010. He moved in straight out of a prison cell into his daughter's dorm.
Yeah.
And parents at the time, we'll get into some of the details, but basically parents of some of his victims have said that they did come forward to the school at the time he was living on the campus and say, what's going on?
Okay.
Why is this man living here? And one individual that was representing the school told this couple, these parents, well, we've had complaints about him, but our hands are tied because he's visiting his daughter.
Oh, wow. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's the story you and I have done so many times. College campuses don't want any bad press.
Right.
They don't want to have to report any bad things like prostitution is taking place on our campus.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry, it's happening in our dormitories. They don't want to tell that story. They don't want to talk about prostitution. They don't want to talk about extortion. They don't want to talk about this freak who happens to live right in the middle of campus. The reason they don't is they have a duty to disclose, and the duty to disclose on anything sexual on the campus is you can't shake that duty. That's why they don't report rape cases.
I believe
this is the same story.
Yeah, they don't want mud on them. It's passing the trash is what a lot of organizations do when they know or are aware of, or someone who's basically committing crimes or alleged to be committing crimes. Right. We saw it with Penn State with Jerry Sandusky. We saw it with Dr. Strauss over in Ohio State, accused of abusing 177 students on that campus as well, and the number is still rising. But in this particular case, it started in 2010. He moved onto campus, made these relationships, moved off campus, basically extorted prosecutors. According to the indictment, he was just a reign of terror is how they described it. He manipulated these kids. He had them confess their deepest, darkest secrets. He then put it on camera, had them confess to crimes they didn't commit, got sexually explicit videos of them, and then used it to extort money from them, as well as single-handedly pimped out one young woman and for $500,000. So it's like a total of $1 million between money from her activities, if you will, and then money that he extorted.
He's running her. She's a sex slave.
She was a sex trafficking victim.
He has a sex slave ring taking place in the middle of the campus at Sarah Lawrence College.
Yeah. Well, the sex didn't start till after he moved off campus. But
well,
the relationships were there.
This is where it all started.
100%.
It all started there.
And the school knew he was there.
Yeah, and they say, and their response is, oh, we couldn't do anything about it?
And it gets even more interesting because the only reason he's even been indicted on these federal sex trafficking, forced labor, and extortion charges is because of an article that New York Magazine did exposing his alleged crimes in April of last year. And they went to Sarah Lawrence College at the time and said, hey, we're investigating this story. This is what we've come up with. And at the time, the school looked into it and basically released a statement to them saying, we did our own investigation internally and we didn't find any evidence to substantiate those claims, which again is going, not our problem.
So he's a prison thug.
Yes.
Okay. He's obviously a cult leader.
Yes.
And Sarah Lawrence College in New York knows all of that. The parents who have kids there, they don't know what's going on.
And it's heartbreaking because he cut their ties, their children's ties. He drove a wedge deliberately.
And rather than leadership at Sarah Lawrence College doing anything, they ignore it because it's bad for the college. Thanks for joining me, okay?
Thank you.